Hello and welcome back to the Karma Stories podcast. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today I have 5 stories for you from the Malicious Compliance subreddit. The Karma Stories podcast is published to all major podcasting platforms, and you can also read along on YouTube under our @KarmaStoriesPodcast podcast handle. Today's episode is sponsored by my 3D printing website, dangly3d.com, where we've just released 2 new colors of KARMEN Chameleon, and yes, they both come with cookies. You can get a new matte rainbow, which looks like KARMEN might be holding their breath, or you can get one that looks like KARMEN was listening to Purple Rain. Check them both out for yourself at dangly3d.com. Alright, on to the stories, let's jump right in. This story comes to us from Chels0394. Follow the speed limit? If you say so. Back in my high school days, the school decided that the parking lot speed limit for cars would be 5 miles per hour. In theory, a good thing. Reduces the chance of collisions greatly, and any that happen should be very minor. Now, here's the thing. The number of people that followed that is exactly 0. Not the parents, not the teachers, not the students. We are a K-12 school, so it was mostly parents. Now, the administration, who has since been going on monthly power trips, didn't like that and decided to start handing out speeding tickets, written warnings that you would lose your parking pass and get an email home. So we, the 30 of 100 high schoolers who had cars, decided to play around with it. Now, normally, car line takes about 20 minutes between when we leave. We get out a few minutes early, so our cars are out of the way. And when car line is mostly done, aside from a few stragglers, and that's with most cars going at about 10 to 15 miles per hour in the giant parking lot we had, which couldn't be used for parents to park, well, that's too short, we decided. So we complied in the most malicious way possible. Every high schooler with a car did less than 5 miles per hour through the parking lot. Normally, by the time the smaller kids got into their cars, we were gone. But not anymore. We were crawling through the parking lot at idle speed. What normally took 5 minutes to clear 30 cars now took 10. And it had consequences. The entire car line for the other 500 students was not also moving at idle speed. Car line started taking 30 minutes on a good day. To say parents were livid is an understatement. Complaints filled the Facebook page, and the sassier parents reminded everyone that we just followed rules set by the beloved admin, beloved everywhere but the high school. With only one way out, and us having to get out before parents because we were literally in the way, our change screwed up the entire car line. In fact, it got so bad that the school was told to fix it by the city or there would be consequences, since we started backing up a major road during rush hour. At the start of next year, the habit fell out since most of those 30 people had left, and we went back to going a safe but above the speed limit speed in the parking lot. It's been 2 years, not a thing has been said. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Fixer. It says, "There are people who lie awake at night worrying that somehow, somewhere, someone is getting away with something, and decide that it must be stopped." Maliciously complying with rules that make no sense is a wonderful way of silently protesting. The school admin here obviously had safety in mind, but they didn't really consider the practicality of what they were doing. I also think they didn't consider who they were dealing with, because students are going to find a way around the rules. And if they can't find a way around the rules, they are going to use those rules against the people who made them. Well done to the students. This story comes to us from Ancient Educator 76. Tell me now. This one should be short and sweet. I teach during the school year and supplement my understandably crappy income with various jobs. Grocery cashier at your Arizona hometown grocer. Every day I encounter at least 10 customers who are less than pleasant, but we manage to get through the transaction unscathed. Today was a day like no other. My job is to make the customer's experience a pleasant one as they spend their money, putting food on my table. I don't take that for granted, I promise. I appreciate even the butthole customers, but this particular lady devoured every morsel of my patience. She started with an, "Oh, you are open," followed by a harshly yelled, "Don't bag any of my things." I acknowledged this statement, then shed her for her phone number for her savings card. She interrupted me before I could get anything in by saying, "I said don't bag them," when I clearly was just setting them aside. I started to ask her again when she interrupted the picosecond I spoke by saying, "You know what? Go ahead and bag them paper and plastic." Okay, fine, no problem. But man, I need to get this lady's number for her savings. What am I going to do? I decide to give some grace here. I ask her one more time with as much syrupy sweetness as a 47-year-old man can muster. "Ma'am, can I get your savings number?" Right then, she spat out at me, "What's my total?" I tried to tell her that without the savings card, she'd be paying $85 more than she originally intended. It was super clear that she was shopping for the digital sales because that's all she got. Bags of chips that somehow need to be bagged paper and plastic on sale for 60% off. Then Coke 12 packs that were buy 2 get 3 free. 4 iterations of them. But no, she wouldn't let me talk. She saw that I was done scanning and repeatedly and indignantly demanded for me to tell her the total. I didn't want to lie to her and say it was the price it should have been with the sale when it wasn't, but I didn't want to indicate to her that clearly the price was wrong. She said, "Tell me the total now." So, enter Malicious Compliance. I told her the total was $296.37, with that sweet intonation that the price was so good. I don't know if she was flustered because of how hot and heavy she was about, well, everything, but she went right along handing me 300s and I gave her change. I handed her the receipt, and as soon as her and her friend walked towards the exit, they started to scan the receipt slowly as they trotted out. She shook her fist at the sunset. I guarantee there will be an update to follow. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Fungus Vampire. It says, "I have customers like that. Then they'll have the audacity to ask after they pay, 'Can I put in my number?' No, you cannot. Get the F out of my store." Another commenter down below called McDuchess said, "Too bad there wasn't a give no F's old lady behind her. You know, the kind that will scold someone like her for being so rude to the cashier. 'Cause what is she going to do? Deck a 73-year-old? You just know this Karen of a customer is coming back, and they're gonna go right back to OP, and OP's going to have to deal with the situation, even though they tried to before, and they maliciously complied." This story comes to us from Undercover Union 145. "Stay until it's done? Okay, I'm doing it by the book then, and getting an extra day off." I used to work as a supervisor in my last job, and was directly working with a union. Some of my managers really didn't want to deal with things when it came to workplace injuries, so I had to deal with most of them. If you have worked with a union before, this is a very long and time-consuming process. While important, very tedious. So that brings us to that one evening. I was on my second double in a row of 3, and very much ready to go home. As I wrapped up my area, my evening manager texted me to assist another supervisor with an injury. The supervisor was newer and needed to be taught. I informed them I was already there on a double and needed to come back in the morning. Was there anyone else, or could they help them? This manager, who was notorious for passing their work on others, he texted me no, and I had to stay until it was done. Okay, I have written documentation of a directive. Who am I to say no? Alright, well then, since I'm teaching, I'm going by the book. I opened up the union and company policy on workplace incidents and followed it step by step. By the time we got to the drug test portion, the local clinic we used was closed and we needed to call it in. This is important because if you don't use the local clinic, the out-of-area one takes 4+ hours to come out. While that was processing, I did a lengthy investigation with the union. I spent the entire night going by the book, taking pictures, and documenting everything I could. By the time I finished and the drug test finished, it was 7 a.m. and my shift started in 30 minutes. This is the time the morning manager came in. They are one of my favorites, and why I pick up mornings all the time. When she saw me and said, "Oh, you're in early," I said, "I never left." Her face dropped because they have a rule that while management, including supervisors, can work more than 16 hours, if they work more than 20 hours, they need a 24-hour reset. I wasn't in the union, but still hourly salaried, and got overtime over 8 hours in a day. So not only was I going to not be able to make my morning shift, I couldn't make my evening shift either. I was still going to be paid for both while being sent home. She asked me who told me to do this, and I showed her the message from the evening manager telling me to stay until it is finished. I went home and enjoyed my extra day off into the weekend. When I came back, I had an interview about the incident with the senior manager. After showing my messages, which the manager tried to delete but only did on his side, I was dismissed without any issues. The manager was written up by the senior manager, and they had to pay me my 2 regular shifts plus 24 hours of overtime. Needless to say, I stopped picking up after that, no matter how much they begged. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Lucas Pizzacello. It says, "Manager trying to hide his mistake was a double whammy by itself." Another commenter down below called Zumbo Prime said, "Ha, yet another example of a big shot waving his pecker around and thinking he's made an example. Except this time, the example is him." So you mean to tell me that this manager deleted all of the messages on their end, thinking that that would make it all disappear, but not realizing that OP would still have the messages? The upper management found out about this, and they only gave him a little slap on the wrist? I understand that the union is there to protect the workers, but sometimes managers like this need to be kicked to the curb. This story comes to us from Kilted Turtle. Can't carry over time to the next year? Okay, that works. I worked at a company that had a lot of people that had worked a long time there. It was pretty common for new chemistry or chemical engineering grads to come in as their first job after college. At 20 years, they got 6 weeks, 30 days of vacation. Some people liked to work and simply rolled vacation days into the next year. The max you could ever carry over was 45 days. At some point, some bean counter figured out that the 45 days were a liability to the company. If you were selling a chunk of a company off, and those people have 6 weeks of vacation, and another 9 weeks in the bank, that's 15 weeks of time that the new owner could be on the hook for. So they decided and put out a proclamation that there would be no carryover from one year to the next. Much unhappiness swept the company. Lots of people tried to plan how they were going to use it. One of the key people I worked with came up in October and said they were going on vacation, and how much they liked working with me, which was kind of odd. So I pressed a little on why this sounded like a forever goodbye and not a see you in a week. So I got told, under strict confidence, that they had found a new job. New job started in 2 weeks. They had enough vacation days to cover them to January 1st. And the next year's vacation and holidays covered the first 2 months of the following year. So they were done. I wished them well, and they were gone. But they were not as good as I am in keeping secrets. There were suddenly a number of key people, also with 6 weeks vacation and a large vacation bank, that were gone. Lots of unhappy people in HR. HR could not say no to the closeout vacations, since they had decreed the rollover freeze. But HR decreed, you must return to work to be able to collect the vacation in the next year. Turns out, most of the people got jobs in very cool companies. They all scheduled a vacation day so they could come back to work for a day. They came back en masse. Coworkers scheduled them all into meetings, so they had things to do on that day. It was mostly a party day with an all-day food fest. As an added bonus, senior management had indeed planned to split off a division, and the sale fell through because of all the people that had bailed out. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, there's one from a user called Andrew NZ on Reddit. It says, "Where I'm from, and I imagine a lot of other places in the world, vacation days are considered debt on the company balance sheet. They also have enough in the bank to be able to pay it all immediately at any point in time. Changing policy like that though, that's how you piss people off." A lot of managers think they can screw over the workers in the name of short-term profits, but then when everybody quits and the company collapses, they sit back and wonder what the heck just happened. That original policy though, of being able to carry over 45 days is just dumb, because you have people who have 6 weeks holidays plus an extra 45 that they can take pretty much any time they want. Way to screw over your own schedule. This story comes to us from Christian Moral. Want me to use my vacations? Fine. All these stories about vacations and or annual leave reminded me of something that happened to one of my workmates a few years ago. A new manager was hired for our team, and quickly he wanted to impose his way of doing things. Daily stand-up meetings, people having lunch at different times, etc. So he didn't start off well with most people in our team. Then he started going after people who had accumulated annual leave. Here in Australia, you get 20 days annual leave per year. I had none left, so no problem with me, but this friend of mine had been working there for nearly 8 years and never took a day off. He had months worth of annual leave. This manager wanted to make an example of him and ordered him to plan out vacations and or sell back to the company some of that time. Perfectly legal, but with tons of conditions. My friend didn't want to take any time off, but was being pressured constantly by our manager. Every day at our stand-up meetings, the first item would always be pending annual leave and would just fixate on my friend. One day, my friend just had enough of this guy and gave him 2 options. He told him he wanted to go for extended holidays back to his country and take it all at once, or sell the whole thing back to the company. The manager accepted the first option, only to come back next day after checking with his manager to say that wasn't possible, as he would have to go for nearly 6 months, and we had plenty of projects in the pipeline. He then said, "You'll have to sell the whole thing back to the company," only to come back the next day after checking with HR. One of the conditions says that you can only sell a maximum of 20 days. Cue Malicious Compliance. From that day onwards, every morning my friend started emailing our manager, copying HR, and the head of our department, asking him for an update on his annual leave arrangements, stating he had given him the options he was looking for and was waiting for his response. He would also bring it up and push for an answer every day at our stand-up meetings. He never got a reply from our manager, but weeks later got a reply from the head of our department, indicating they will review other options and let him know. They never did. The following year, my friend had his first daughter and ended up taking extended leave then, 3 months. The pushy manager had already resigned as he never felt comfortable in the team and found another job somewhere else. Jumping down to the comment section on this one, we have one from a user called Captain Quick. It says, "With too much leave accumulated, one response could be, 'Hey boss, just to let you know, since management is complaining about the amount of leave I have, starting next week, I'll be on vacation every Friday and Monday until the leave hours are at a more reasonable amount. If the Monday is a federal holiday, I'll be out on Tuesday.'" OP responded to this one and said, he was given that option actually, but straight up refused. He got a little upset on how this manager was handling things and wasn't too cooperative. Okay, 8 years without any holidays? How is that any good for your mental health and your productivity? Also, why the heck is this company allowing them to roll forward that many days of holidays? That is just incredibly dumb. If you enjoy daily Reddit stories, I encourage you to follow and add us to your favorites on whichever podcasting platform you enjoy the most. And if you're watching and listening on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps us out. I thank you for watching and listening. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.